Hello and welcome to Tread Lightly, the podcast of two dinosaurs talking about books over a nice cup of tea. It's T-Rex and Raptor coming all the way from Germany and Australia to you, talking about today's book, Red Rising by Pierce Brown, the first book in the Red Rising saga.
That's the whole intro this time?
Yes, that's pretty much all I have here. That's all I have from last time too.
Okay, I thought you were going to do something more about who we are because it was the first one. So the Earth is dying. Darrow is a Red, a miner of the interior of Mars. His mission is to extract enough precious elements to one day tame the surface of the planet and allow humans to live on it. The Reds are humanity's last hope, or so it appears, until the day that Darrow discovers it's all a lie, that Mars has been habitable and inhabited for generations by a class of people calling themselves the Golds, a class of people who look down at Darrow and his fellows as slave labor, to be exploited and worked to death without a second thought. Until the day Darrow, with the help of a mysterious group of rebels, disguises himself as a Gold and infiltrates their command school, intent on taking down his oppressors from the inside. But the command school is a battlefield, and Darrow isn't the only student with an agenda. Dun dun dun!
Whoop whoop!
Yeah.
Yeah, this book both of us, I think, got recommended by a friend of ours, Steve, back when both of us were still living in the US. And I think we both read it there a couple of times before leaving the country.
Yeah, I read it at least once, and I think I've read it four times now, so this book's pretty good for a reread.
Yeah.
Big fan of it.
Yeah, so in terms of rating, I think I would go with a 4 out of 5 stars, actually, because I really liked it.
Yeah, I'd probably give it 4.5 stars.
Ooh, 4.5. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Fancy. I really like the writing style. Not to get into it a bit, but I really enjoy all 3 books in the series because I'm ignoring the 4th one, which completely changes writing style, and I'm very mad about it. I'm not a fan of the 4th one. But,
okay,
yeah.
So I've only actually read this one. I haven't read the other 2, although I have them, and I kind of started with the second one, but I keep coming back to the first one, so spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, spoilers for you. I really, really like this series. My favorite character isn't even in the first book. She's actually in the second and the third book. So, yeah, bit keen. So, shall we get into what our favorite scenes are and go through the book?
Yeah, sounds good. So, spoilers for anybody who hasn't read it yet.
Do you want to start with your favorite scene, or do we want to just jump into doing a recap?
Maybe let's do the recap first.
Okay, so we start off with our poor little Reds in a village. That's not really a village because it's carved out of the cave system underneath the Martian soil. Our protagonist, Darrow, is a hell diver.
Basically, he drives a drill.
Yeah, he's the driver of a 90-meter drill. When they collect helium,
Yes.
so that they can potentially convert Mars to a habitable world with all this helium that they're digging up. How that science works, I don't really understand.
Yes, it's conveniently left out.
Yeah. He's living his best life right when we jump into the book. He's got the girl of his dreams, the job of his dreams, all his fams there. They're about to, make it big and get their biggest haul of raw... So far, they've got their biggest haul of raw helium. And so they're going to win the prize of the competition between all the little tribes around them. And that doesn't really go to plan, does it?
No, not really. It turns out that, the laurel, I think it's called, the prize of the extra food and all the supply, basically goes to one of the other clans, Gamma, who always gets it, which kind of reveals the whole system of we don't really give a fuck what you do, the winners are already set, which is kind of a theme that goes through the whole book.
Yeah, it's our first real taste of the hierarchy, I guess, of the book that they try and introduce.
Yeah,
we're
also...
Oh, yeah?
We're also introduced to somewhat of the color system that they have. So we do have the miners who are reds, basically the lowest of the low, the poor workers, and then we also have the greys, which are somewhat of, I don't know, police and prison guard in a combination.
Yeah, they're security for the mine.
Yeah, basically keeping everybody in and keeping everybody down.
Yeah, but they're not they really seem to relish their position down there and the power that they have over the Reds, but the Reds don't really seem to fight up against the Grey because they were born to be better or born to serve a different task, I think, is what the explanation is.
Yeah, especially Darrow seems to be pretty happy to just...
Yeah, he's a 16-year-old boy who's happily married to the love of his life, approaching his midlife crisis almost.
I mean, he's 16, but in those colonies nobody ever gets really old, so that's not really a young age for them.
Yeah, and especially the men. The women seem to last a little bit longer.
Yeah, true.
In general. So he intended to win the laurel to gift his beloved with more bread and more ale and more of everything. And when that shit goes south, his wife Io tells him that she's got a surprise for him as well. And the surprise... Well, she says she's got two surprises. The first surprise is she finds a back way into the Grey's garden, which turns out they're living a lie down in the mine. They're not the only ones living on Mars. And they escape into the garden and sit under a tree and watch the stars for the first time. So not only are they not incredibly deep underground, there's access to the starlight there. There's, moths? I think he encounters a moth and goes a little bit bonkers. It blows his mind.
Yeah, I think the only animals they actually have in the mines are the pit vipers, who just sounds like a mixture of a snake and a worm who's really poisonous and ravenous.
Yeah. So they get busted, funnily enough.
Basically imprisoned.
Yeah, so they're imprisoned for 3 days. All Darrow does is cry about Io and miss his life, and he's terrified of his 40 lashes.
Yes, as you would be.
Because he knows that's what's coming for him. But when they get taken out to get their public punishment, there's a new face in town.
Yeah, we get introduced to, I think it's the Arch-Governor of Mars. Nero O. Augustus? I don't know how you pronounce that name.
Nero O. Augustus. But
yes, so he's basically the highest of the goals we have on the planet, more or less.
Yeah, he's the governor of Mars in their pseudo system. I don't know. I was going to say democratic system, but it's not a democracy at all. It's
no, democracy has been outlawed.
It's not quite a dictatorship. There does seem to be some push and pull and negotiation, but it's...
I mean, there's definitely a name for it, but I have no idea what it is right now.
It's kind of like a regency, right? Except that it doesn't...
there's definitely a name for one class being the ruling class.
Feudalism?
I
think it's feudalism.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I mean, it's part communist regime, part feudalism, part all of the worst options of every kind of system. You're born into your role and you will die in that role. There's not a lot of upwards movement, that's for sure.
Yeah, especially since the different classes or colors can have been bred into their roles as well. They're genetically modified to actually be the best suited for their jobs. So there isn't even a question of, hey, you're really talented at something else. Why don't you do something else?
Yeah, Mickey has 6 fingers. Anyway, we should hold off on that so we can talk about Mickey later.
Okay. Yeah, so they basically both get sentenced to their lashes. Darrow gets his first, and it's a very vivid scene that he's describing of him being bloody whipped. And then when it's actually Io's turn, I think she's getting a couple of lashes, and then she actually starts singing one of the outlawed, I think, rebellion songs, which gets you a death sentence, pretty much.
This is my quote from Nero, which is just hang the bitch.
Yes.
So they do.
I mean, he makes sure to let her finish the song she's singing first. I still have no idea what purpose that served to him, except for a bit of fun entertainment. But yeah, then they proceed to immediately hang her. And since the gravity is lower on Mars, they actually, whenever somebody does get hanged, which is the only way they execute, I think, the loved ones actually have to pull down their feet and legs in order to break the neck, which is just really creepy.
It's a bit terrifying.
Yes.
Otherwise they suffocate to death? Or they get strangled to death by the rope?
Yeah. I mean, before they actually commence with the hanging, Io gets to say her last words, basically, and she calls in Dio, her sister, to say them, not Darrow, although he takes it in strides, seeing how she's going to die in a minute. But we actually don't get to hear what those words were, at least not in this book.
No, it does come up later, so that would be a teaser to keep reading.
Okay. And then she dies, and Darrow is pretty much bummed out, to say the least. All of his family are trying to keep him locked inside because they're afraid he's gonna do something rash and get himself killed as well, which is pretty much what he's planning.
Yeah, it's 100% what he's planning. So he sneaks out. So the Red don't bury their dead. They leave them hanging, basically, as a display. So he takes her body, cuts it down, and takes her into the garden and buries her underneath the trees and where they had been originally busted.
Yeah.
I guess a comment that we should probably bring up too is that Io is described by Darrow as being this kind of amazing pillar of the community, gorgeous beyond her class, kind of amazing woman. And every time we hear her speak to Darrow, she's asking him to be more. Like, she wants more from him. She wants him to be more, be a better leader, be a stronger leader, be more in the community, take charge. And he is very content to just be where they're at.
Yeah,
right up
that's
until
true.
she gets murdered.
I mean, it's the whole conversation in the gardens was really interesting, of him just going on with, like, life is fine, it's great, we have it all. I don't know what else you want except for maybe the laurel. And she just goes on about, I think the quote was, then you must live for more, when he tells her that he lives for her and she basically lives for the dream that they're all going to be free one day.
Yeah, she seems to have a good grasp on the fact that they're pretty much slaves.
Yeah. And Darrow's just like, oh no, I mean, he's drank the Kool-Aid. We're pioneers. We're making this planet ready for the world. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he is so happy and so content. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, which just shows you that you can really Stockholm somebody into it.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's dead, and he buried her.
Yes, so now he's gonna be sentenced to death.
Yeah.
But I think it's walking up or back to the commons. His uncle is having a drink and a chat with him, and as it turns out, that drink was not just alcohol. So after they actually hang him, he does wake up again.
Yeah. Yeah, he wakes up, digs himself out of the earth, and proceeds to go with these two other Reds that he's never seen before that seem to know who he is, because he's just angry and mad and wants to be dead, and he's hating everything and everyone, and he's like, well, fine, like, just keep going with my life. Like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want anything. Yeah, but onwards and upwards for this fellow. Yeah, so that's when we get introduced to Harmony and somebody who's a spineless worm. I think we never really give a shit about who he is again.
No, he's just background actor number 33, basically.
Yeah. So Harmony is basically the same as Darrow. Broken, angry, and looking for revenge.
Yes, like a rat on the warpath, basically.
Yeah. She takes him to meet with...
Dancer, I think it is?
Dancer, who tells him that he's been saved by Ares, the true embodiment of war, not the mollycoddled version of the god of war that the Romans sought, but the Greek god of war, who is the manifestation of all the bad bits. Not tactical battle strategies, literally like passionate fighting, anger and rage, uncontrollable rage and violence.
Yeah, they're trying to sell their pitch really hard.
Yeah. Look, I drank into the Kool-Aid a little bit. I'm a big fan of the movement, personally.
Yeah, so pretty much the background info so far has been that the Sons of Ares, the whole organization, is branded as like a terrorist group who just blows up shit and is trying to rattle the establishment. And now they're trying to introduce themselves to Darrow as a group of more freedom fighters, really, like the leaders of the underground rebellion.
Yeah, they want to upset the class system and get out from underneath the boot.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, as a reader, I drank the Kool-Aid. Darrow does not give a shit. He's pretty much open for any chance of revenge, like 100% on top of it, ready for that revenge.
Yeah, although it does take him a moment actually to
live for more.
Yeah, like for the first half, he's pretty much just put me back underground. Like I want to die. I lived for her, and now she's dead, and now I need to be dead too. Until Dancer gives him the whole, your wife's dream, your family's dream, your people's dream, you must live. And yes.
Yeah, so they've also managed to hack into the telecommunication systems on Mars and have started showing Eo's death everywhere. And they've started calling her Persephone, the goddess of spring, as welcomed by death. With the idea being that, she'll rise again, spring will come, rise up kind of idea, I think. He's right. That's where he's going with that name.
Yeah, and then basically, in order to win him over all the way, he commences to take him up an elevator and actually show him that Mars has been populated quite a long time ago and is full of cities and actual life, and that his whole life has been a lie.
Yeah. And it's not like there are harsh people that live on Mars that are fighting every day. Oh, no. The first thing we do is encounter a drunken Gold who's flying through the sky, giggling and, bumping into things.
Yeah, being chased by a lot of girls.
Yeah.
Like the hardship impersonated.
Yeah, basically. So, that's a hell of a wake-up call. This is what you were living, breathing, and dying for. You want to keep on that path?
Yeah, so I think that's what gets his rage really up and going. Just the idea that down there his brothers and his whole family is basically slaving away, dying young, just so that the Golds can have it a bit more cushy upstairs.
Yeah. So he's mad now and they've mobilized. And so they start setting in motion their plan. The Ares plan is to find Reds who are dexterous and smart enough to pass themselves off as Golds in the mental sense, and then have somebody literally carve them a body of gold, or body for a gold. Body of gold, too.
I mean, that's when we get introduced to Mickey, the so-called carver, which is just... I really liked Mickey. He was such a weird, eccentric person.
I know, he is absolutely kind of bonkers. He's out of the creative cast, and so he was raised in the garden.
Which
he's a violet, he's a purple. Yeah, he's got 6 fingers, and he seems to be a little bit too crazy to be in normal high society for the rest of the artisans and to have any of his stuff appreciated, but he seems to be really good at his job. So
yeah, I mean, he's talking about how I think he describes the gardens as like a big circus where they took drugs all the time, and now he just wants to create the things that he saw on the trip that he had.
Yeah. So he makes a lot of pinks, which are the
pleasure personnel.
Yeah, pleasure personnel. He carves a lot of pinks. They're pleasure slaves and social functionaries is their description. He gives a lot of them wings or horns. Makes people to match the gold's fantasy, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, at first he doesn't seem very much into the idea of turning a red into a gold.
Yeah.
And then Darrow comes out with his really impressive drill hands and just shows him that he can solve a digital puzzle faster than him. Wow.
Oh yeah, because it's based on wavelengths.
Yes.
But basically, Darrow is super dexterous and pretty switched on. He can use his analytical brain quite well. Yeah, and then they kind of bait Mickey in as well, being like, oh, somebody else has actually already done it, but we think you could do it better. Yeah. And which I 100% thought was a throwaway line until we meet a character later.
Yes, that's true. I didn't really think of it either until we get the reveal, which was pretty good, I think.
Yeah. From there, everybody's on board with the plan, as on board with the plan as you can be as a underground rebellious group that's trying to fulfill the plan of some being unknown. And they set about turning Darrow into a gold, and we get a series of scenes that are like language lessons, arts lessons. What do we get? Some physical lessons. So we learn how to dance, we learn how to fight, we learn how to run again, we lift weights, we get buff.
Yeah, like the actual carving scene or chapter was really a tough one, I found, because they had to replace pretty much everything about him. They had to like make his bones thicker and give him frontal lobe surgery and
all put the microchip in or something.
Yeah, because he needed like multiple identification chips and that sort of thing. So it's just a lot of really painful operations and him just basically wishing to die once again.
Yeah, so it's good that he wants to be dead because he's being resurrected.
Again. Yes, for the second time.
Yeah, he dies on the table too in the book.
Yeah, true.
We get through that scene. It's a really good scene to give an explanation to a lot of like the cultural aspects of being a red, versus being a gold. We don't really encounter any of the other classes so much. We meet Matto. I can't remember what he is.
I think he's probably a brown, Mateo.
Servant, cook, and janitor?
I mean, he teaches there. He's pretty much his tutor, but I'm not sure which color the tutors actually were. I don't know if it's actually said too what color he was.
I think he's got to be a brown. He's got to be a low color.
Yeah, I would think so. Oh wait, no, he's a pink.
He's a pink? Oh, okay.
Yes, I just looked it up. He's a pink.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense because he teaches
him like how to talk and
how to dance.
Yeah, which is actually really
cutlery
good at.
And yeah, because all the training he had back with that old drunken uncle of his actually prepared him quite well for the dance of the saber.
Yeah. Also, it seems that the Reds actually they don't have a lot of pleasures, so they do actually dance quite a lot, which comes in handy.
Yeah, it's great skill for our protagonist to have.
Yes. What can you do? I can dance. Oh, thank goodness. That's what we needed.
Yeah, I think it's more so that the dance is very similar to the sword work drills that he ends up doing. Anyway, so from there we go and take the exam to get into the academy. Darrow heads off to take a test, and everybody's like, don't fucking talk, because you still talk like a nong. Don't talk to anyone. Just take the test and leave. This is like the hardest part of all the security. We actually need you to be there for this bit and this bit only, is to take the freaking exam.
Yeah, so of course, what does he do? He talks to people.
Yeah, not a lot, just enough that we get an interaction with a couple characters we meet later.
Yeah, so I think the main person we actually meet is Cassius,
Yeah, I mean, we do steal that girl's pen as well, and she ends up being, Antonia?
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I never figured that one out. See, there you go. Yeah, so he does steal a girl's pen during the test because she keeps hitting the table with it, which drives him crazy, which also earns him the affections of Cassius, who is the son of one of the 3 biggest, most famous, most rich, influential families of the planet, and kind of takes to him.
Bella something or other?
Bellona or something?
Yeah.
It's all the names, man.
Basically, belladonna, poisonous weed. Anyway,
Yes. The subtle hints.
Yeah. After that, we get accepted into the academy because he gets the highest score on the test, because he's a genius, turns out. Absolute genius. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had one question wrong.
Yeah, one.
And that kind of opens my wonderings about what that one question was about, but we don't really get that told either.
No, but we don't get any of the questions. So the questions are not supposed to be like...
It's not book smarts, it's just...
common sense, I guess?
Yeah.
Or like weird logic. Like,
yes.
If the left side of the fish has X many scales and the right side of the fish has Y many scales, what side of the fish has the most scales? The answer is the outside.
Yeah, it's this weird thinking of outside of the box, but...
Yeah, so I guess because the Golds are kind of the military leaders, the futurists of everything, you gotta make weird extrapolated decisions.
Yes, so, and because he did that great score, or got that great score, the Board of Quality Control actually pays him a visit to kind of do mostly a lie detector test on him and make sure that he didn't actually cheat on the test.
Pretty much. But he passes that too, and then the test results come eventually, and look at that, he's a genius.
Yeah, he gets his flight to the academy. On board, he meets Julian as one of his new companions, and as it later turns out, the brother of Cassius.
Yeah. We also meet Severus there.
Servo?
Servo. There we go.
Servo. I always call him Servo. He's Severo, actually.
Yes. So we also meet Severo.
Honestly, Severo is my favorite character, probably.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't give less of a shit, and he's very much not as a Gold should be. Like, he's cursing all the time. He doesn't follow any manners.
He's foul, yeah.
Yes, he's basically a rat in the suit of gold.
Yeah, they constantly are like, well, I guess he's off having a wank in the bushes. Like, that's all the time. So, like, they have no idea where he is. They just assume he's off wanking in the bushes every single time. Like, he's going off and doing productive things, but, like...
Yeah, he's, like, super skillful and actually clever, and everybody just thinks him some small, disgusting lowlife.
So, from there, off to the academy, you do a bunch of tests. When they arrive at the academy, they do a bunch of, like, dexterity tests. Is a bit more testing, and they go into a room and interview, right, with all the different houses.
Yeah, I kind of those like the physical tests they did on them. I found that scene really funny, where they try to test his hands, but because he has those super skilled helldiver hands, they actually have to get a techie in to readjust the machine because they can't up it up high enough for him to actually beat it.
Yeah, so for the machine to beat him. Yeah.
So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, so they have a bunch of different interviews. There's people that come in and talk to him about intelligence and all those kind of things. And the scene I really enjoyed is the House Mars representative comes in.
Yes.
And punches him in the face, like, immediately. And says, if you punch me, then you'll immediately get kicked out. So Darrow kicks him in the shins.
Yes, and he just laughs like, oh, this is marvelous.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yes, I enjoyed that one too.
So then we go off to house selection. House selection involves basically everybody in their own little pod with all their stats like flashing around, and then all the
it reminds me of that quiz show. I don't know what it's called. That weird quiz show where people were sitting in these windows.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what that was called.
Yeah, me neither, but it's what I see every time I read that chapter. It's just that stupid quiz show.
If somebody out there knows, let us know.
Yes, please. What is it?
Yeah, so we've got that set up, and then we go through all the houses as they pick their first candidate from each house. We get a couple of interactions with the different leaders as they pass over Darrow. And there are 1,000 students there? Is that what they said?
I think it's actually 100.
No, there's 100 students in each house. So there's got to be 1,200 students. Yeah. So then Darrow gets selected 11th?
Yeah.
Out of the 1,200 students that are potentially there. It's a great moment. He's very excited. He's very proud of himself in the book. Not conceited at all. Anyway, so we go.
So he is picked by House Mars.
Yeah.
Even though Fitchner wasn't really advocating for him because he thinks that his scores on rage were just way too much. But
I mean, everybody thinks that, but that's kind of one of the traits of House Mars is it's angry.
Yeah, that's kind of. It's also what they always say is the reason why they haven't won anything in the academy for years and years, because they burn really bright and then they're just out.
Yeah, they burn out very quickly. So we toddle off to our feast, where we sit at the table and we meet Primus. Basically Prim. Just called Prim from here on in. But Prim, who is the son of the third great family of Mars, whose mum owns 2 of the moons personally.
Yes, which is just a great thing to work into the conversation.
But he's basically king shit. He speaks only in the highbrowest of highbrow. And Cassius, who is the second pick for Mars, immediately fawns over Prim. Fawns over him, and everybody else is just kind of expected to behave, come to heel around him. He's just he is top diggity dog. So we have our feast, and we kind of get introduced to more of the crew. It's at this point where all of our future favorite characters get their nicknames.
Yeah, I mean, we get Sean and Tony again.
Yeah.
Who is pretty much I don't give a shit about any of you guys kind of girl. I think we also get introduced to Rogue, although I'm not sure if it was here or after the passage.
No, we get introduced to Rogue here.
Yes, who's kind of the friendly poet. And actually one of the few sane, normal characters.
At least for now.
Yes. So they all make friends, and it's all lovey-dovey. And they go to bed, and then shit's kind of start hitting the fan. He pretty much gets woken up by being punched and just beat up. They drag him off, strip him naked, and then beat him up some more, and then they throw him into an empty kind of metal room, I think it was, with nobody else but Julian in there, also naked and beat up. And it's all, I mean, the whole description of the scene is really...
It's quite visceral, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then basically somebody just comes in and tells them, well, we don't have as many spots as you thought we do, so only one of you is going to leave this room, and dramatically tosses one of the House Mars rings into the room and just leaves.
It's kind of only one of you will come out of here alive style.
Yeah.
We have Julian pleading with Darrow to just leave because, it won't be any dishonor on Darrow. His family will be fine with it because he's from a really low-class family, but Julian needs this. He's desperate for it. His whole family has come through this school and survived it. And he's the last, one.
Yeah, and he kind of has that feeling that he has to prove himself to Cassius.
Yeah.
And just like, he can't go home, what will his brother think and his family think? And Darrow the whole time is just trying to tell him that you aren't gonna go home. Like, either way this goes, neither of us is gonna go home, which Julian just ignores completely.
Yeah, so Julian starts doing like a warm-up, effectively.
Yes, I think he's still, like, you can tell that he can't wrap his head around the idea of a gold actually dying, or them actually allowing a gold to be killed for no purpose whatsoever.
Or even to have to kill somebody. Like,
Yeah.
it's not in his repertoire. He's a good guy, basically.
Yeah, he's used to dueling for the purpose of dueling and not actually killing somebody.
I don't even think he's a duelist either, isn't he? He's a musician, he's super empathetic, he's like genuinely
I
a
don't
nice...
know. At some point later on, Cassius says that he was better at cravat than him.
Yeah, but cravat is the wrestling style, not the
Yeah, okay.
Not like dueling per se, but yeah, it's... Well, while Julian starts warming up, Darrow is big and brawny and just huge and just kind of slams his fist into Julian's face.
Yes, he kind of forgets his own strength there too. Like, he's surprised at how fucking easy he can kill a gold, basically.
Yeah, and Julian tries to come at him and defend himself, and Darrow just smashes him in the face again. And then I think he hits him in the chest, and he starts like bubbling as he breathes, and it's quite a graphic scene, to be honest, and it's really well written. You can really visualize it.
Yeah, they describe the dent that he made into his chest, pretty much just punching a hole in his heart by the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, isn't that a metaphor for this book?
Yes.
Oh.
Much excitement and uplifting thoughts there.
And we're only like halfway through the book.
Yes. So pretty much that was the passage, pretty much the right of way. So he pretty much starts sobbing and puking, and he's just like, it's the first time he ever had to kill somebody, and it's really eating at him. And well, eventually he picks up the ring and starts stumbling his way out of the room and down a hallway to try and find the others.
Yeah, and we get there and we find... I don't think we find anyone at that point, do we? Oh, we find Rogue and Leah.
Yeah, and Darrow is kind of surprised at a lot of the... Like, for example, Leah, who's just this thin little nonchalant girl, and he's just surprised at a lot of the people who actually managed to kill whomever they were paired with.
Yeah.
And about half of the people they eventually find are just all sobbing and crying and falling apart.
Antonia's not, though.
No, and then you have the other half, like Cassius and Antonia, who are just like, hey, good fun, good fun.
Yeah, but Cassius is there waiting for Prim and Julian to come through.
Yeah, and as time moves on, Cassius realizes that Julian is not going to join them and just starts getting into a really, like, calm sort of rage.
Yeah, he is mad. Because, Julian's his brother and he should have protected him, and not that there's much you can do.
Yeah, I think one of the quotes of his there was the whole waste of good stock sort of thing, because they're one of the most famous families and influential families there, and all of the sudden he realizes that even they are being kind of ticked off.
Manipulated.
Yes. Well, then we go on, and Fitchner is back and pretty much explains to them that the place where they're in now, which is kind of an old-timey castle, like medieval castle, is where they're going to live now, and that all the other houses have their own castles, and I think Darrow describes this as pretty much capture the flag. So it's about beating the other houses and emerging as the victor and also the leader of your own house.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is you can take slaves.
Yes, they have a standard, I think it was called.
Yeah.
with which they can touch any captured, turn them into a slave that has to obey what you say, or otherwise they will be shamed for all eternity.
Yeah, basically they don't get to join back into gold society.
Yes, which seems a really strange system.
Well, yeah, you gotta be part of it.
Yes, I was a slave, and I was such a good slave too, man.
Yeah.
Also, something none of them ever had to do is actually cook for themselves, clean for themselves, look after themselves, since all of them have been pretty much pampered by pinks and servants all their life, and now they kind of need to manage in this medieval setting all by themselves.
Yeah, so the first scene that we have is they have to try and feed themselves, and they have no food, no weapons, no smoke, like no fire, no nothing.
It's also kind of cute how Severus, the only guy who actually knows how to make a fire, but he doesn't tell the others because he's like, no, wait, fuck you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around at the beginning. Anyway, they go out on an adventure and fall into a carefully laid trap, which they recognize 100% is a trap. But it's a giant table of food, just like standing in the middle of the
field, yeah.
The field, right? And so they go charging for it, knowing it's a trap, and Darrow and Cassius then go and try and like take the food. And they do, in fact, get some food, but it is a trap, and they get caught up in that, and then they have to fight their way out with, I believe, a singe blade? Is that what they're called? Basically a reaper staff, right?
Yeah. Is it a scythe?
Scythe, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, which he fights with really well because it's similar to the, I think, sling blades that they have in the mining colonies. And that kind of earns him his new nickname as Reaper.
Pretty much from here on in gets called Reaper by literally everyone.
Yes. At least it's one of the more cool nicknames. A lot of the other smaller characters often get ridiculous and stupid nicknames.
Pebble. Thistle.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Weed. Yeah. So they got given those names by Prim, and you'll notice that Prim hasn't made it into the story, because Prim died in the passage. So one of these small, weedy people has ended up killing Prim, and we don't know who.
Yeah, it's the whole situation of Cassius also trying to rope people into a game of, hey, let's all compare who we had to kill, because he desperately wants to know who killed his brother.
Yeah.
But luckily, nobody jumps on board. And, I mean, Darrow ponders that for a bit, the whole fact that they paired 50 really good, strong, influential people against 50 of the low drafts with the bad scores and the ones who really shouldn't have made it into the academy. But as it turns out, some of the low drafts actually were a lot better than they gave them credit for and managed to kill the ones that were supposed to survive.
Yeah, so we probably, at least we're thinking that's going to be Severo and Thistle and Weed and all those.
Yeah, I think Leah probably too.
Yeah, possibly. Although she came from a pretty high-end family, didn't she, in the end?
I'm not sure, actually. They don't really say that much about her.
Yeah.
Well, they pretty much, from the get-go, start dividing into 4 tribes, I think. Titus, one of the more brawny and violent and vicious guys, leads one of the tribes. Cassius and Darrow have one. Antonia also
creates a bit of a tribe for herself, yeah.
Yeah, and Severus kind of his own tribe by himself.
Just him. And I believe they put the wolves in his tribe, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, he killed, at some point fairly early on, he kills a wolf and wears his skin as a nice and scary coat. And he's been spotted meeting with the wolves outside, and actually sometimes I think they bring him food and sometimes the other way around. It's one of my favorite scenes too later on, I think, when when Dara asks him about it, and he's just, well, I killed their pack leader, so that's why they don't follow me around. And he then just looks him up and down, grins, and just goes, "Don't worry, I wouldn't fit into your skin."
Yeah, look, Cerberus is one of my favorite characters.
He's great. Okay, so yeah, then we have the whole 4 tribes, everybody mostly separating. I think Darrow and Cassius can find a place outside of the main castle to.
Yeah, so they seem to have these like summer castle cottages that are set up through what is effectively their the Mars lands. So they're in one of the outposts.
Yeah.
They set up there, and Darrow finds like a med kit and some matches, and they set about within their little tribe, like teaching everybody how to kill and skin a goat, and having everybody be brave enough to do that. And then I think it's Leah decides that none of them can cook, and she's gonna do it because she's gonna be the best cook, but she's really not, and Darrow's really not a fan of her cooking. Or Rogue's cooking, for that matter. They both get shut out.
Apparently nobody can actually cook, and everybody's just, I don't know, giving it a go, but
Darrow's in the same boat here.
Yes.
It was such a wife mother role that it never occurred to him to know how to do it, and he doesn't know how to cook himself.
Yeah.
They actually, so this is later on, but one of my favorite moments when they raid House Minerva for the first time. And they get in there, and it's just him and Cassius, running about, and he literally goes, and they go, he overhears them say, "Oh, but June can cook." So they run in, he goes, "Who's June?" And she, identifies herself, and they kidnap just June. Just need someone who can cook.
Yes, that was really great. I love that scene where he was in the war room, and one woman came in, and he's like, "Are you June?" And she's like, "No." And he goes, "Can you cook?" And she just starts laughing at him.
Yeah.
It's just desperately running through frantic House Minerva trying to find somebody who can cook. Oh, it was really great. That's true.
I love it. My face.
Yeah, I mean, then we pretty much, it's shown that Titus is just really violent. His whole tribe is all about taking the first slaves from House Ceres, I think, and just starting to treat them really, really horribly.
Yeah, so he's a brute in every sense of the word. He takes some of his classmates and uses them as sex slaves, basically.
Yes, pretty much. I don't know if it was him who had the idea of just creating their own pinks, basically. So basically a lot of pillaging and raping and just fighting is going on, especially since they don't have fire by any means, so they kind of dissolve into...
Eating a lot of raw meat and going a bit kind of bonkers.
Yeah. I mean, Rogue tries to convince Darrow to give them fire, to actually help them out and help the people that they're abusing, but Darrow's like, no way, he's gonna have more power, and no.
Yeah, I mean, Darrow does go to try and make some kind of amends, but it doesn't really go his way. Kind of scares the living shit out of him and kind of flees into the mountains again. So we've got on and off battles between the different factions of Mars, but also Dario and Cassius start looking outwards. So around them is House Minerva, who we jumped the gun a little bit with that one, and House
Ceres, I think, is the other one.
Ceres. So Minerva is Athena, and I'm trying to remember what the other one is.
And then we also have House Diana, which isn't far.
Diana, that's the one I was thinking of. Diana is Athena. So they actually go to House Diana and go, we need to team up and take on House Minerva, because Mustang is this incredibly attractive, lovely woman who Darrow is thrilled to be around. But she's also incredibly smart. and incredibly tactical. And they're really concerned about their positioning because their castle is kind of spectacular.
Yeah, and kind of from everything we find out during the story about all the other houses, it seems like Mars really gotten the short end of the stick. Like, everybody has at least 1 or 2 advantage things, but Mars just has nothing. They really, like, they didn't get shit.
Yeah, they started with nothing but their own rage.
Yeah, I mean, Minerva, I think, has horses and also, I think, ovens.
No, they're not the bakers.
That Diana? Or maybe Ceres. I don't know, but a lot of them have...
Somebody has ovens.
Yeah, a lot of them have at least a couple of practical things.
And weapons, usually, of some kind.
Yes.
So, bows and arrows or swords, where all that House Mars has got so far is the Singe Blade that the Reaper stole, and Cassius gets a sword, I think, somewhere?
Yeah, and then it's just random blunt objects that they find around the place.
Yeah, they make their own clubs. Well, so they've gone to Diana with this offer. Diana accepts, and they go and set a trap, basically for Mustang. Do you want to talk about Pax now?
Yes, we do have, I think it might have actually happened before that, or I'm not quite sure about the timeline here, but I think it's the first time when Darrow and Pax actually fight. Pax being a member of House Minerva, just being this huge brute of a gold who looks like he's half of an obsidian, which is, I think they're like superclass soldiers. And he's basically the biggest,
7 feet tall or something. And
yeah, he's the biggest gold he's ever seen, and he's just this fighting machine that can throw horses and all that.
Oh yeah, that's right. He takes on a horse.
Yes, he loves to tackle horses, and it's this amazing fight scene of Pax just starting to charge at them, and he just kept shouting his name of Pax A. Terminus, and he's just the super rage-driven gigantic gold that everybody's super frightened of, and it's this hilarious situation of this monster that seems a bumbling idiot that just screams his own name. Although it turns out later that he's not a really bumbling idiot, he's just very engaging.
Yes, he's very passionate. With a disarming laugh, I believe, was the description. If it goes too long, it gets into a giggly squeak. So, they go to take on House Minerva. They have a little bit of a skirmish in day 1. And then the rest of the night. And then we have a day 2. Darrow decides to challenge Pax to a duel out the front of House Minerva. And Mustang's having none of this. But Pax is like, fuck yes, hit me with that duel. So they're fighting for... Basically, one of them, somebody else will secede to the other one based on the outcome of this duel.
I think they were actually fighting for captured slaves or something.
Something like that.
Oh, in the end, it's basically, I think 10 of the high drafts from Minerva come out together with Mustang to form a circle around the fighters, and I think 10 from House Mars, and the other ones have to...
Yeah, this is after they've burnt all the grass away from the front of the building, right?
Yeah, because they thought, they're probably going to have people lying in the grass waiting for us to come
out. Which would have been a great idea, but we don't. So the duel starts, and we have
Pax just ripping the shit out of him.
Yeah, so Darrow gets to the point where he's like, well, I have to stay really close to Pax because, like, if he gets a full blow in, like, if he actually hits me, then we're screwed. He's going to kill me. It's going to rupture my insides. And Pax is just trying to land a blow on Darrow, who's, like, just trying to stay between his own arms. But Pax has a shield and an axe. And Darrow hits him with a really good shot and gets some mud in his visor, so he can't see. And his choices are to put down either one of his weapons to wipe his eyes. Anyway, it's an amazing scene.
I don't think either of them actually comes out on top, really.
No, and I think that's part of the respect then that Pax has for him later.
Yeah.
So while all of this is going on, we realize that the dead horses that were from the last battle don't seem to be all that dead. In fact, they seem to be moving a lot.
Yeah, I really love the beginning of that scene where Darrow just gives this sign and starts to howl, and then his entire army basically starts howling like mad, and then all of a sudden the dead horses kind of start to howl.
Yeah, so it turns out half of the Mars army and half of Diana's armies have been sewn into the dead horses the night before, cut themselves out, and go storm the castle.
Yes, slight Star Wars vibes here.
Yeah. While doing that, the other half of Diana's forces climbed the back half of the castle and have invaded from the outside and promptly shut the door. Yes. But you'll find that there's a small portion of very small Mars soldiers in there. So not only do they have all of the captured Minervans, except for Mustang, who mysteriously escapes with a stand, and then we have all of Diana, who's now trapped in a castle that's not their own, where all of the food has been burnt, and the water has run afoul because somebody keeps pooping in it, and all these things. I think it takes them 3 days, right, until they decide that they've had enough and they just want to go home.
Yeah, pretty much. I think they had a deal in the beginning with House Mars that
they were gonna go Harvey's, weren't they?
Yeah. So they technically broke their side of the bargain first, and that's when they decided, well, we're gonna have to get them out of the castle then.
Yeah. But it's also the first time we get a glimpse of who's the character I'm thinking of who got sewn in with Severo, who slits the saddle of the current leader of House Diana, and she falls off her horse and gets trampled to death.
Yeah. God damn it! It's Tactus. It's Tactus. Like cactus. Yes. So Tactus slits the saddle and makes sure that his own Primus is getting trampled to death.
Yeah. So that's a bit gruesome.
We kind of skipped over that scene of Titus's death that actually happened before that.
Oh, did it? I thought it happens afterwards because they go to punish him for raping people.
Well, that is Tactus, yeah, but Titus's death happens before that. When Darrow is able to
take back House Mars, unite House Mars.
He takes back House Mars, I think it has something to do with the Ceres slaves, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so he climbs the wall, and he's like, I'm House Mars. You can't, I'm not an intruder. This is my home. You can't alert anybody. And the slave's like, you're not wrong. And goes back to, twiddling their thumbs.
And then he basically takes back House Mars, and then he kind of has the issue of everybody hating Titus for all the raping and murdering of other people and mutilating them too. I think he cut ears off and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he also captured Cassius and pissed on him.
Yes, which is why Darrow promised Cassius that he can have him basically when it comes to killing him. Mm-hmm. And then Darrow basically is trying to have a conversation with Titus in the basement where he's locked up and is trying to figure out why he's always so fucking angry at everybody, seemingly himself as well. And that's when Titus slips up with the word and he realizes that, oh my god, he's a red as well.
Yeah, so that was kind of we get an idea of what Darrow could have become if he let his rage manifest the wrong way.
Yes. And it was also a really good reveal. I didn't see that one coming.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah, so now he's kind of stuck with the situation that he really has to kill Titus, because if he already slipped up in front of him, he could slip up again, and then he's gonna risk everybody who might have been carved into gold, especially him.
Yeah.
So he's kind of forced to now sentence him to death for his crimes.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to have gotten him on his side. It's just,
Yeah.
Titus was sloppy and, like, he shouldn't...
Yeah, well, it sounds like girls came and raped either, I don't know, his mother, sister, wife, something like that. While he's raving to himself and has a slip-up, he talks about how they came to rape her multiple times, and now he's doing it to them, basically, as a revenge plot.
Yeah.
So he seems to have some scarring experiences like Darrow, but he really couldn't get into a rational place there.
Ain't that the truth? He is pretty rough. He's a pretty rough kind of dude, Titus.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets sentenced to death, and he thinks that he is going to be dueling with Darrow. So Titus makes a request. His request is that they don't use curved blades, because he thinks he has the upper hand then on Darrow, because Darrow and this whole scythe business.
Yeah.
Then Cassius steps in and begs Darrow to let him have him, and Darrow steps aside and lets Cassius basically do the deed and duel with Titus, and it doesn't seem to be much of a duel. Cassius is a pretty excellent dueler. I think he's one of the best in Mars.
Yeah.
So yeah, Titus doesn't really stand a chance and perishes.
Yeah. We also, I think, in that chapter get the reveal from Fitchner that we kind of haven't mentioned it yet, but there have been a lot of rumors from the other houses about a guy called Jekyll from the southern houses. That's kind of, it's pretty much like the whole Reaper legend, but from the other side. And I think it's in this chapter that we get the reveal that he's actually the Archgovernor's son.
They're not going to let anyone else win.
Yes. I think it's coming on slowly, the whole knowledge that it's all a rigged game, but Fitchner is the only person who actually gives a shit about Darrow and tries to reason with him and be like, yeah, it's all fucked up, but just keep your feet down.
Yeah.
But, well, doesn't work that well.
Yeah, so switching back to where we were, we take over House Minerva, and then we head back to Mars, and we get our first encounter with the Jekyll.
I think...
well, not Jekyll per se, but the Lilith?
Yeah.
So yeah. Lilith is right-hand man to the Jekyll?
Yes, and she's like this terrifying woman who has, I think, teeth braided into her hair.
That
make a clicking sound whenever she moves. And it's just all very apocalyptic.
Yeah. So we get a delivery.
Yeah, she basically sends the message to Cassius that he wants the Reaper, dead or alive, delivered to him.
Yeah. Don't we get Antonia's betrayal first? I think the first one...
No, it comes right after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we have him sending the message to Cassius, together with two of these iron blades, and a pouch with something in it, but Cassius doesn't look in it because he's like, well, I trust you and all that shit.
Yeah.
And then Darrow sends Cassius off to, I think,
fortify
to
some stronghold, right?
Yeah. And Severo's going with him, and he kind of tells him to steal the pouch because he's worried what might be in it. And Severo doesn't even ask about it. He's just like, yeah, sure, gotcha. And then while Cassius is gone, he walks into a trap by Antonia, who's just,
who ends up... She tries to deliver, basically, the Reaper to the Jekyll, but that goes south when...
I mean, Leah was supposed to lead him out to get Rogue, who's supposedly stuck in a cliff somewhere, trapped.
Yeah.
And he realizes that it's a trap on the way, so he just jumps into the bushes basically and is trying to make his way into the undergrowth. And then Antonia jumps out with, I think, 1 or 2 other guys, having...
And night vision goggles, right?
Yeah, and having Leah in a stronghold and basically saying, you come on out or I kill Leah. And he's like, well, I can't give myself up. They're definitely gonna kill me. So she actually kills Leah and then just, leaves him out there.
Yeah, and so he's out there all night waiting for dawn, basically, and then slips back into the castle. When they go to try and find Rogue, he's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But still alive.
Although Rogue is kind of missing. I don't think they find him till...
No, they do find him. They find him pretty soon after.
Okay. Might have missed that one. I think Antonia then ran for it after that.
Yeah, she disappears.
And Cassius comes back, and as it turns out, he did look into the...
But only because Severo tried to steal it.
Yeah, so they kind of tipped him off something was off here, and as it turns out, it was a holo video, I guess, from Darrow killing Julian that the Jackal sent him, and he now knows the terrible truth and is kind of pissed.
Yeah. So Cassius challenges him to a duel, which is basically a death sentence for Darrow.
Yeah. Which he knows too, because he can't beat him, but at the same time he does sort of feel bad for killing his brother, so he doesn't really try to escape either. It's more like a slow, steady walk towards death.
Yeah. So it's over pretty quickly. Darrow gets sliced through the gut.
Yes.
And left for dead, and Cassius goes off to do his own Cassius thing. But he gets Darrow, who's ready to die in the mud again, gets rescued, but this time by Mustang.
Boop, boop.
So we have 8 days of fever dreams and him muttering about EO and all that while Mustang nurses him back to health, and then we have more time of Mustang and Darrow just trying to survive out winter, basically.
Yeah, we have
it's cold that they're hungry, and
we actually have Fitchner coming in then telling him about how the game is rigged and how Jupiter and Apollo are the ones who would kill anybody off who stands in their path, because they're promised some new high positions and fancy shit if they make sure the Arch-Governor's son is winning. And he kind of asks Darrow to just leave it be.
Just survive.
Fun. Yeah, you'll get an apprenticeship. It's okay. You'll get everything you want afterwards. Just fucking don't do it. But Darrow being all, well, this is unfair. This is super fucking unfair. I think he keeps going about the merit. It's about the merit. And
it's a meritocracy. That's the word that we were looking for earlier.
There we go. And yeah, so basically he's like, I'm not having any of this shit. And he decides he has to get back on top, but there's no way of him and Mustang taking House Mars or anything like that. So they instead
uses her stand, and they start making House Mustang. House Reaper.
Yes, basically. I mean, luckily Mustang did have the standard from House Minerva, because now they go out
super conveniently that Darrow didn't definitely let slip past him.
Plot device. So basically now they're finding all the slave runaways, the shamed ones that decided not to follow the orders and just are kind of on their own, and they keep converting them, basically. They turn them into Minerva slaves and then take away the slave mark completely, setting them free, which kind of earns them their respect and support, and they start building a slave army.
Yeah, basically he's trying to create an army of equals, and you might be a slave for the first battle, but by the time you win him a house, you succeed in battle, then you're free. You don't have to wear the mark anymore. You're an equal among these people, and eventually they start putting the house together, and we run into Servo and those kind of things. And then he goes to take back House Mars, and he runs inside, like he sneaks inside, and he's like carving his name on the inside of the house.
Yeah, and like does the scythe symbol on all the doors and everything, and the slaves kind of started building him up as this
Ghost.
This incredible legend, and they tell stories about him at night in the camp and all that, and he's just like, wow, the Reaper. And when Zevra comes back, he's already missing his eye.
Yeah.
He was up in the Southlands trying to kill the jackal, who just kind of took an eye from him and then pushed him off, I think, the mountainside, and he kind of had to make his way back, but he didn't get to have a look at him, so we still have the whole jackal mystery going on.
Anyway, so once we've taken back House Mars and we've got Pax, Darrow goes to set a trap for the jackal. So, randomly, without any warning to anyone ever, and confusing our friend Cactus in the meantime, we've got Cactus back. Cactus has effectively become one of the generals. Yes. He decides to march down to Juno and take House Juno while they're off doing other things while the river's frozen. And so they make it there and they capture the castle incredibly easily.
Yeah, I think they're scaling like the walls and just... Oh, hey,
yeah, everybody. And there's nobody there except for like a couple of people. So we end up with a bunch of slaves there.
I think they have a lot of Ceres slaves.
Yeah, and they take back...
Yeah, like, you guys fight for us now, and if you fight well, then we'll free you too, basically.
Yeah, so they storm the castle, they take the castle, raise their flag, and afterwards they're like, we're going to Darrow goes, let's celebrate. We're going to get really drunk.
Oh, actually, I think we have the Tectus... We have the Tectus whipping scene first, actually.
Oh, yes.
Because they now took the castle, and Tectus immediately... he and Darrow had a couple of arguments beforehand, where Tectus is like, I'm from one of the super pure-blood families and all that shit, and you ain't shit, you're not gonna tell me anything. And in order to prove his point, he's trying to rape one of the Ceres slaves.
Yeah.
And then Darrow is kind of in this trap where he can't punish him without making all the Diana people angry at him, and at the same time he cannot punish him because then all the Ceres new slaves are gonna be angry at him, and he's like, what
they're not gonna work in his army the way that he needs them to.
Yeah, basically. And so he comes up with this, I really like that scene too, in the front of the whipping, but the whole idea of him going, well, yeah, you're gonna get 20 lashes as punishment, but because all of your faults are also my faults, I'm gonna get 25. Damn. And Tectus just being super, holy shit, what's happening here? I don't know what's happening here.
So Tectus gets lashes, and then Darrow hands him the whip, and then like, what is it? 6 lashes in, he goes.
Tectus is like a whiny little bitch.
And he hands the whip to Pax. And makes Pax do it. And even after the third one, he goes, or something like that, he's like, Pax, you can't like go easy on me. You have to like hit me harder. And so he makes Pax cry.
Yes, that's one of the greatest scenes afterwards when Mustang is like taking care of his wounds, and she's just like, you made Pax cry, and then you can hear him like just whimpering in the background.
Yeah, so that's a great bonding moment. This is now then with Cactus, our friend, as a general, we head off to take Juno.
Yes.
And it's taken suspiciously easily. And then he sends people off to collect wine, they're gonna get drunk, they're gonna have a party, it's gonna be great. And then the whole crew is all getting real drunk. And like, real drunk. None of the new slaves or the 7 people that were there in the castle, they don't get any booze, but everybody else is getting real drunk and real lazy, and then he's sending people off to like get more wine in the cellar and like do all these other kind of things.
Yeah. While he's having a chat with one of the Juno guys, I don't even know what the name was.
something starting with L, wasn't it? Anyway, as they're going on and on, you get this description from Darrow that this guy is trying to pretend to be not confident, but his body language is way too self-assured. And, like, his rings don't fit, and, like, a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And then...
Lucian. Yeah, that's the same.
Lucian. And it comes to a head, and
Darrow basically just goes, well, let's stop with the pretense. I know you're the jackal. And he's like, oh, shit, you knew that the whole time. Nice.
Yeah. And then he goes to do something, and Darrow stabs him through the hand and pins him to the table with a knife.
Yes, and he's like, we have this really kind of terrifying scene where it's described how he's like in pain and terrified for a couple of seconds, but then he just calms himself down with 2 breaths and just leans back in the chair and is like, so, okay, this happened.
Yeah, which is absolutely bonkers. Anyway, they're trying to talk to him and convince him to do anything, give up, to have a conversation, come to an agreement. And Darrow kind of hugely underestimates him and how crazy he is. He's like, well, you can go if you cut off your own arm. And he's like, oh, nobody's going to do that. No gold is like that.
Yeah, no gold is going to sacrifice their own hands for this. But the issue is that he keeps comparing himself to them. Like, his hands are all he has kind of left that's really worth something about him. But the other golds are just like, shit, like, what about hands?
I mean, that too, but to some extent. But also the golds don't really like to mar or scar one another. Yeah. Particularly themselves. They're really, like, vapid. But the jackal is cut from a different cloth. He is crazy. Anyway, he proceeds to start cutting off his own arm.
Yeah, Pax even holds down the knife that is pinning his hand down, and then I think once he reaches his bone, he gives him a sharper weapon, because he's like, oh god, I can't watch this.
Yeah, but
yeah,
we have the next part of the scene where Jackal's rescue comes in the form of the proctors of the houses. So the Pincer and all of the other golds that represent the gods themselves are called proctors, and they're the ones that have been giving out gifts. They arrive to rescue the jackal, basically.
Yeah, at this point I think it's Apollo mostly that is giving Jackal, I think it's like a detonator, and they just the room just gets blown up, and then Darrow tries to follow the jackal, but Apollo,
I think we need to give more weight to the scene that Pax throws himself in front of Darrow.
Yes, he does.
And Pax actually dies. And
yeah, which is a super sad scene, actually.
And that's the real trigger for this rage hunt that most of House Mars, or House Darrow at that point, decides to go on. Severo keeps leading them through the snow onwards and onwards to find the jackal, and they just can't quite find him because he keeps getting help from the gods, basically.
And then Apollo kind of jumps in between the two of them.
Yeah.
And is trying to kill Darrow. It's like, I've got enough of this shit. And Darrow just proceeds to kill Apollo with like a knife ring that he got from Fitchner.
Yeah, so we have to step back a bit and think back to the castle before this one, where Fitchner tries to intercede with Darrow, and Darrow uses the opportunity to steal his grav boots, which are boots that help him defy gravity, his pulse armor, his saber, his knife, and a bunch of other stuff. In our mad run to kill the jackal, we find that Darrow is actually wearing the grav boots and the armor and a bunch of other things. And so when Apollo tries to... When he picks up Darrow and pulls him up into the sky with the attempts of, like, dropping him from a great height, we find out that Darrow doesn't drop because Darrow is wearing the grav boots, and he proceeds to kill Apollo.
Yes.
Is it Apollo? Is it Juno? Is it the first one Juno?
No, it's Apollo.
Anyway, shit gets fucking crazy from there. Dividing up, like, the equipment, I think they attempt to take Mount Olympus, basically the home of the gods.
Yes, shit is getting real. We're taking on the proctors now.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sick of being, like, having the gods intercede. We're taking Mount Olympus.
Yeah, and also just before Apollo dies, he attempts to kill Darrow. He tells him to, like, stop messing around because they've taken Mustang hostage. Basically trying to use that as leverage, and now he's like, oh no, fuck, I'm going to Olympus now, I'm gonna rescue her. So I think he takes Apollo's graph boots, and Severo's taken Fitchner's graph boots.
Oh, we missed the big reveal, which Fitcher was trying to intercede with Darrow, because Severo is his son, and Severo keeps following Darrow into all these shenanigans, and he's going to get my kid fucking killed. Please stop.
Yes. And even though they keep insulting each other, it's like the weirdest father-son relationship ever, but it's also the greatest, kind of. So, yes, it's odd.
Anyway, so Darrow gives Severo his father's boots because he's a much better fit than Darrow is, because Darrow is massive now. I don't think we're making it clear just how massive the new Darrow is.
Well, in comparison to a scrawny little rat, he's, like, huge.
Yeah. So there's that. He takes Apollo's boots and they go to take Mount Olympus, and clearly they succeed, and everything is great.
Yeah,
it's kind of, like, spectacular. Nobody's left. Nobody's following the rules as far as the gods are concerned. Nobody's prepared for it. They don't expect anything.
Yeah, it never happened before in the entire history of any of the academies that the students actually took Olympus.
Yeah.
So the proctors are all just sitting around pampered in their baths and in their beds and just eating their cheese and wine and everything. And the scrubby, dirty students are coming running in, just tying them all up, being like, this shit ends here.
Yeah.
It's great.
So we've rescued Mustang, which is very exciting. And he says to Mustang, who finally reveals that actually she's also the Arch-Governor's daughter.
Which he doesn't realize until she's gone, sort of.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So sorry, I kind of ruined it a bit there, but he gets Mustang, he goes, take as many people as you need, take all the equipment you need, go to the armories, let's go and get, I expect you to go and get the Jekyll for me, basically.
Yeah. And she's like,
in the meantime, who does he go to? He goes and takes on.
He goes to find Cassian and trying to basically tell House Mars that this is it now. We done.
So he goes over there. He takes House Mars pretty easily.
Seeing how he has all the equipment now.
Yeah. Cassius tells him that it's a blood feud. If they ever meet again in real life, he's going to kill him. But he turns over, basically, House Mars to Darrow. Yeah. And we find Rogue, who's roguish still.
Yes. But happy to see him, because he thought he was dead, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, we go back to Mount Olympus. We're very excited. And we get news that Mustang is actually the Jekyll's sister. And Darrow freaks out, starts assembling everybody, and just goes fuck, and tries to pull everybody in together, and
because he now expects that she's gonna team up with her brother and all the equipment she took, and it's now gonna be a full-on war with all the equipment and all the actual weaponry.
Yeah, like they have now the highest level of weaponry that the golds wear and produce for actual battles. That's the point that they're at now. It's no more playing with swords and axes. This is lasers and shields and disintegrating on contact kind of thing. Anyway.
Yes.
Mustang arrives.
Yeah.
And presents Darrow with her brother.
Naked and tied up, I think.
Yeah, and she looks at all of them and goes, oh, all of this was for me, wasn't it? And he goes, yeah, kind of. So it's kind of a little bit of an underwhelming ending, but it really subverts expectation, which I very much appreciate. Like,
Yeah,
you queued up this massive big battle.
And I like the whole, well, I guess I kind of deserved it since I didn't tell you this whole time who I actually am, but it's a bit much,
she's not offended at all, and I love it. I love a character who's, like, super rational about this shit. Like, no, of course, I was keeping a massive secret from you. It's only fair that you overreacted like this, but nobody died, so it's fine. Yeah, and that kind of, like, brings us right to the end, where we get all of the adults coming back to school to offer, to crown the winner, basically, which is Darrow, clearly, and to start offering people apprenticeships and stuff like that, and jobs, and chances to go to basically, like, their version of university, because this is high school, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes. Just like real high school, too.
Yeah, I know. I murdered so many people in high school.
Man. Good old times. Yeah, so we have the arch-governor coming in and going, well, you kind of fucked it up for me a bit, but as it turns out,
Darrow, he knows that Darrow knows.
Yeah, although Darrow was smart enough to have several alter the footage to make sure that actually none of the truth gets out. So he kind of has the arch-governor in his hand now, so to speak.
Yeah, because he still has the evidence, he's choosing not to show it.
Yeah, so now the arch-governor's like, well, I can offer you everything you want, and you just give me your silence.
Yeah, so he makes him a lance of the house, which is a pretty spectacular deal, and we actually end on him taking the oath to give up his fake family and...
that is dead anyway.
Yeah, and become a member of one of the most powerful house on Mars.
Yeah, sounds all very da-da-da-dum.
The deepest cover.
Yeah, in the ending, the whole part where the arch-governor says, well, yeah, my wife was pleading with me to help her son, and I'm like, and she wouldn't plead with you to help her daughter? Sounds like a very cheap excuse.
They're twins. That's the thing. They're twins. He has a new wife. Like, that's not her son. Anyway, sorry. Those are all secrets from book 2. So, Anyway. Drama aside.
Yes.
Right. What? So you're definitely going to read book 2 and book 3 and not book 4 then?
I don't know about book 4 yet, but definitely 2 and 3. Yeah, I really like this. I mean, a lot of the story was mainly about the whole fightings between the houses and battle tactics and that sort of stuff, which was really interesting because it's not usually the kind of books I read. So yeah, I really like the change there.
I like the voice in these books. It's like he's recounting it.
Yeah.
He's kind of recounting it like live. And he does add in like more information, like, I wish I'd thought of this at the time kind of stuff, and gives you a sense of like how he's grown as a person. And like, in the books, the person telling the story is much older than the character that is the protagonist of the story, basically. It's a lot more hindsight and like, I needed to learn these lessons kind of thing, which is a really interesting way of constructing the story. And I really like the voice, basically, of the author here.
Yeah, I think we have great character development too, at least for Darrow.
And it's really, like, some of the imagery is quite visceral. Like, the descriptions about what's going on give you a real sense of the scene.
Yeah,
without being too wordy.
Yeah, even when we first arrived, well, in the region of the games, and he's just describing the whole layout and the lands and how everything looks. I think he takes like 2 pages or something just to set up the environment.
Yeah, I really like the story. I can't express any more deeply than to say that it is definitely like a 4 out of 5 for me. I'm a big fan.
Yes.
Would read again. We'll probably read again.
Yes, I mean, I've read it, I think, 4 or 5 times now, too. And I guess I'm sort of worried that the next 2 books can't measure up to it, and that's why I keep falling back to that one, so...
Nah, you be ready for book 2, book 3. Like, it is a journey.
Okay.
But you should do it.
Okay. Oh, I'll put it on the next to-do list.
Yeah, put it on the future reviews list or something.
Yes, definitely. We shall be coming back for the next one. I think it's Golden Sun.
Yeah. Alright, do we need to do some outro?
Yes. So, if you enjoyed this week's episode,
you can donate to our Patreon.
Yes, and you can follow us on all the social medias, and hopefully you'll enjoy all the other episodes too.
Yeah, we should really remember what all of our social media handles are.
Yes. Just, they're linked in the description of this video. So. just look like downwards or left. Maybe right. It could possibly also be upwards, but
you might have to click the thing, and so it goes from the picture into the description. But it's in there, I swear.
Yeah. Like, do a couple of clickings. Come on, you know the internet. It's not like you're here the first time. Do the things.
This is a terrible outro.
Yes, it is.